Welcome to the 1956 Nobel Prize in Physics, which comes with some interesting stuff along with a little bit of drama, because what fun is it without drama? It was jointly awarded to three people, a gentleman named William Shockley, John Bardeen, and William Brattain. What they won for was the research into semiconductors and the discovery of essentially the transistor effect that led to the transistor that led to every piece of modern electronics you have at your home, including the one I'm talking to you on right now. Um, so what the heck is a semiconductor? Well, semiconductor is kind of exactly what it sounds like. We use the term every day, but I'm not sure how many people really understand exactly what it is. It is a material that has properties somewhere in between the conductor and an insulator. So if you change its way it's kind of exposed to things. It can be either a conductor or an insulator, and that's very important because of what you want to use them for. Now, transistor actually serves a couple of purposes. It can amplify electric signals, which was done with vacuum tubes as well, and it's also a microscopic switch, allowing current to only flow through at a specific time or with a specific way of setting things up. So you can build all kinds of interesting stuff, and we're going to see how it is normally the sort of the backbone for what you have around you every day. In fact, this is my iPhone 15. It has roughly, and I looked it up, 19 billion transistors in that one device. So to say, this one had a bit of an impact might be a little bit of understatement. So let's dig into a couple of things with how this came about, the people involved, and more importantly, the egos involved, because that did lead to a tad bit of interesting drama for these three gentlemen, all of whom worked at Bell Labs when they invented this particular thing. So let's go. Meet Walter Brattain. Now, overall, the work played in this particular project played a vital role in electronics from that point on, and really these guys really did just stand on the shoulders of sort of scientific and intellectual giants that came before them. Not that they weren't intellectual giants on their own. They were just building on top of other people's work and made this breakthrough. But the ability to amplify electrical signals is absolutely important and was vital in the development of things like radio and television, so it could be broadcast over long distances. It was absolutely important to be able to do that. And the real drive here was to be able to make those amplifiers smaller and smaller, because before this time they were using vacuum tubes, electron tubes, and they were big. You had to have large arrays of them. They kicked off a lot of heat. They were problematic. They burnt out. You had to replace them all the time. It was a huge issue. So the idea was to use semiconductors, which seemed like a logical thing to do at the time, because semiconductors were kind of becoming a newer way to accomplish some task and allowed you to shrink stuff. So semiconductors seemed like the way to go. The trouble was semiconductors were kind of new. Nobody was really completely familiar with them like we are today. And quantum mechanics gave us some insight into those materials, but the math was pretty weird. So you have to really kind of get down and dirty and start to really experiment with things. And these earlier experiments were part of that. And by the way, meet John Bardeen. Now, in 1947, these three produced a semiconductor amplifier, and that was important because really what you have is the first transistor effect. Now, Bardeen also was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1972 for his work on superconductors. So he's won two, or had one too, for his work in different fields. Now, here comes sort of the interesting little bit of a twist in this particular project. And this is where the interesting drama, and more importantly, I think one of the things holding back modern day physics is a lot of times egos come into play, and the ego sometimes is more difficult than the work. But what happened in this one that might have been challenging? Now meet William Shockley. So this is where the drama comes in. This is the fun part, right? So publicly, Shockley took as much credit as he could figure out how to for this invention. He had some theories and some other work prior to the actual building of a transistor that really were important to that discovery. But he never built the first one. He was not involved when they built the first one. And he did have some suggestions. Oh, try this, try that. And that's important. Those things do matter. But if you want to be picky, it was actually physicist Julius Littlefield who proposed the concept of the field effect transistor first in 1926. But the technology of the day, you couldn't possibly build one. It just wasn't even within the realm of reality. But the three should have continued to work together. In fact, Bardeen and Brattain actually did the first work. They built the first one without Shockley, but he did again come in and make some suggestions. But he also later tried to take all the credit. So Bell Labs actually presented all three as an inventor when they filed the patent. Now, Bell Labs wanted these guys to all work together on what's called a junction transistor, but Shockley spent the first part of that project really alienating the other two, and they both were like, "We can't work with this guy. We got to go." So the team kind of split up. They kind of went their own ways. Now, remember, Brattain went on. He just said, "Fine." He left the group, went to a different part of Bell Labs, and started working on um, superconductors, for which he won the Nobel Prize in 1972. The other gentleman left and went to, I think it was University of Chicago Champaign, but they all were physicists for a while. But this is one of the things in modern physics that really, in some labs, just kind of drives everybody crazy. Is there's one person with an ego that can just destroy team cohesion because they're more worried about credit than performance. And when you work on teams, you have to kind of remember it is a team. These things matter. And, sometimes you may not get all the credit you feel you deserve, but you don't get the chance. You shouldn't go off and be a jerk about it. Now, the invention that came out was the original transistor was about 1/50th the size of the equivalent function vacuum tube. Yeah, there were smaller vacuum tubes, but if you look at performance to performance, you could build a transistor that was about 1/50th the size of the equivalent functionality vacuum device. And since then, the world has just never looked back. We've gone crazy with them. So let's dig into a little bit more of what a transistor actually does for us, because they do kind of matter. Now, what you see here is one of those first ones ever built. So they weren't pretty when they first built them, but they got pretty. They got prettier and prettier. Now, what the heck is a transistor, right? So we hear the name, we know it, everybody says it, but what the heck is it? Transistor radio, right? We've heard it all the time. Well, they have three main components. They have an emitter, a base, and a collector. And together, these form a switch. They form an electronic switch. The switch can be on, the switch can be off. Whoopie-doo, who cares? A light switch, we see them every day. But in the electronic sense, it's a little bit different. So these are used in computers as a couple of different things: digital logics and or nor. That's how computers take in and do calculations. Or it can be a 0 or a 1. They built electronic binary memory. It was perhaps one of the most produced inventions of the 20th century was these three guys. I would doubt most people have even heard their names, yet here they are. They produced something. They built something that is something you have more of in your home than you realize. This device right here, 19 billion of them in this alone. So to say these guys kind of changed the world around them, I think we can claim that. I think these guys did that. So I hope if you enjoyed this video. Yes, there was a little bit of drama in the team, and they didn't quite work together as long as they should have, but they were all reputable guys and went on to have great careers. Now, please don't forget to click subscribe and like, and if you want, click the little bell icon. You'll get notifications for when I upload new stuff. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you soon.